Hello and welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Niraj Shah, and you guessed it. It can't start off without crude oil. That was the big talking point all of late last night, all of early morning today as well. And it was a jaw-dropping move, as our article describes it as well. West Texas crude May contract prices traded in negative territory. Yes, they've bounced back, and now crude is trading even for that above zero. But the point is, in our lifetime, we've seen some contract of crude oil trade in negative territory. A few days back, when one of the companies was talking about an adjustment to a software to account for negative prices, people would have scoffed. Who would have thought this would happen? But it has happened. The prices of June and the December contracts were trading the last time I checked about an hour and a half ago at about $20 and $32. So the long-dated contracts are still sane, but essentially because of the near-term oil sloshing around and nobody having storage capacity, crude oil traded in negative territory, even it's for optics, but it is important to take note of that. So sharp plunge in crude oil prices nevertheless, irrespective of whether it's now in negative or positive. We know that there's a sharp plunge in crude oil prices, and that could have ramifications for a number of industries, positive as well as negative, and we'll talk about that during the course of the show on Indian Open as well. But first, or second rather, what's happening to the markets by and large? I think yesterday the US markets came off a couple of percentage points or thereabouts for the Dow, S&P and the Nasdaq, and maybe the decline in crude oil prices. Typically we try to believe that it's all positive, but we've seen in the past, historical past, that when crude oil prices have come off, at least until 2016, even the Indian markets didn't do well, but the US markets essentially came off yesterday. Asia is starting off a bit lackluster, similarly for the SGX Nifty as well. And even though the US futures have recouped some of the losses of yesterday's session, don't quite know if the sentiment today will be as positive. And frankly, from our market's perspective, I think that's the key point that you got to keep in mind today. We spoke about this yesterday, that Friday's rally may not last. It hasn't. Not trying to pat our backs out here, but I do believe that any absence of stimulus package from India, as well as the global markets not looking positive, would mean that our markets will not necessarily have a good time. And frankly, you look at this chart which we are trying to bring you on your screens, and that quite shows you that how the markets are not quite ready for any big gains. If anything, we are actually, the chart says that it's too early to celebrate because the Indian equity rebound may be due for a breather if history is anything to guide. So we might actually have a breather, and the breather could be pretty extended as well. So keep that at the back of your mind. The FI activity too, for all those people who are thinking that the FIs have turned back, look at this. The last 5 days, there has only been 1 day of positive inflows from the foreign institutional investors. Otherwise, it's largely been negative. The month of April has more negative days than positive days thus far. And the last 5 days are an indication of how the FI money essentially continues to leave the Indian shores as well. And mind you, the Nifty EPS cuts for FY21 have now started to come in. I was reading a Motilal Oswal note today which said that for FY21 the earnings now they expect to be flat. So officially, the earnings estimates are expected to be flat for FY21, similar to FY20. It's a washout here. I won't be surprised if there's some negativity around the market today as well. Watch out for two results. Actually, ICICI Pru has deferred the results, but they were supposed to come out today. But ACC certainly comes out with numbers, so do watch out for ACC in the session today in terms of the numbers. Let's wait and watch what happens to this stock as well as some of the other cement counters post the numbers. The stocks that you should monitor in the session today, I'm quickly jumping to stocks today because frankly, aside of crude and what's happened to the world markets, not much to talk about. Crude is the biggest talking point, but because of that, I do believe that companies like ONGC, Reliance Industries, all of the upstream companies could well be in focus today. There was perceived weakness in ONGC in the session yesterday. Reliance bounced back for reasons of its own company specific, but all upstream companies could well be in focus today as well. Well, maybe the downstream companies could do well, but I would focus on ONGC for the day today, maybe even Reliance. Infosys is the other big one to monitor. The numbers came in line with estimates. Operating margins, though, were under pressure as the company adapted to the new work environments. They have, of course, as some of the other companies, suspended the providing of the annual guidance for the time being. So that doesn't surprise. The key is why Infosys is important because it rallied quite substantially ahead of the numbers. Yesterday as well was up about 4%. ADR was down. We might well see a negative reaction on Infosys today. So do watch out for this stock too. And UBS has come out with a note on the NBFCs, and it's an interesting one. They've multiple ration points, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. But for now, I'll just brief you on the target price cuts that they've given. Bajaj Finance, they've downgraded to a sell. They've brought down the target price to 1600 from 4600. Ujjivan, the target price has been brought down to 200 rupees from 450. And then multiple other brokerage, multiple other stock price cuts have come in. HDFC, Shriram Transport Finance, M&M Finance, drastic cuts. I think the most eye-popping one is Bajaj Finance, wherein the target has been cut to 1600. A lot of other NBFCs are already trading below some of these prices as well. So therefore, you got to keep that in mind. But yeah, Bajaj Finance still above the target price of UBS, above the target price of Bernstein. Almost everybody is right now writing off Bajaj Finance in the near term. May well turn out to be true, so do watch out for this one in trade today. Watch out for the other NBFCs too. All of them came off yesterday, and therefore could be an interesting point or focal point in today's session as well, with the markets also looking like being slightly wobbly. So the M&M Financials, Shriram Transport Finances of the world will be in focus. Last but not the least, one thing that is important, states had started borrowing at normal rates. They were crowding out the corporate bond market as well. I think what we learned yesterday is that the center has released about 46,000 crores as state share of taxes. Maybe that should help alleviate some of the pain. For a country like India, no amount is enough, no amount is large, but this is an amount that has been released nevertheless, and that should probably have a bit of a breather. So it's an important news point. I just thought I'll bring it up. Thanks so much for tuning in, viewers, to the Trade Setup today. Have a good, profitable day ahead.